and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I want to shed a new light or a different light on the Saturn Pluto conjunction and what it means relative to 2020, but really to the evolution of the planet, of consciousness, of us as a species and the universe at large, because this conjunction is obviously really critical, but in Capricorn it's especially critical. And if you want to understand everything that is going on in 2020, you definitely have to understand the deeper layers of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction as well. And by doing so, you will also get a much deeper understanding of how astrology really reflects what's going on in the cosmos, but really what's going on in your life as well. Because everything that you see in the world at large, you also see inside your own microcosmos in your heart. So if that's exciting to you, you definitely want to stay tuned. Even before 2020, a lot of people have been talking about the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, and also that 2020 will be a really, really significant year for all of us. Even if you are not into astrology or you just got into astrology, you would probably have heard that 2020 is really important, right? When everyone thought 2012 would be important, I guess 2020 is the real 2012 for many reasons. And so for 6 months into 2020, we can definitely say that there are a lot of things to talk about when we look back to 2020 in hindsight. But why is this year so critical? Why is it so pivotal? And why is it such a turning point in our consciousness, in the collective, in everything you see? And a big part of that is that more and more people have that so-called spiritual awakening that, for many people it started in 2012, but now you can really, really feel and see how many people wake up literally in lightning speed, right? But why is that? And I definitely see that the Saturn-Pluto conjunction is a big part of that. And the reason for that is, well, Saturn rules the structures of this world, right? Saturn is what structures us into this physical experience called Earth. And Pluto is the soul. So when you have a conjunction between both of these planets, and I always say conjunctions are two planets coming together, but because they come together, they have to form a third entity, right? They create a new energy, a third energy that has the potential to literally create a new reality for us, right? Especially if Saturn is involved, because it rules the structures of this world. And Saturn is soul, right? Saturn is the connection to our soul. Saturn is death and rebirth. It rules reincarnation as well, because it means that we have this strong desire to transform something in this physical experience, and that's why we are so-called reborn into this physical experience, right? And if Saturn and Pluto come together, it means that this physical experience will be more aligned with our soul, because Pluto rules over Saturn. There's no doubt about it, because Pluto is just our soul, and our soul is like the most important energy force in this universe, right? Our soul creates everything. And I see that the Saturn-Pluto conjunction really opened us up to the realization that the way we think about physical life might not be the full spectrum of what we are capable of as humans, right? Because our soul knows that we are so much more than just this human avatar, and we are so much more than this physical experience too. Okay, and that's why a lot of people wake up to the realization that we are eternal beings, right? That this physical experience is limited to a certain degree. Saturn rules limitations as well, but only because we agreed to these limitations in this physical world, right? And if the collective at large doesn't agree anymore to these limitations, the limitations will be altered or changed or reconstructed, right? And we create new containers in which we learn, because that's why we have limitations, in order to have a safe container to learn, right? You can almost see that as the masculine holding the feminine, so we can have these experiences. Doesn't mean that Saturn is masculine and anything like that. Don't want to bring the whole feminine masculine energy into the consideration, because we have both of these energies inside of us anyways. But because so many people wake up to the realization of what or how this universe really works, right? And what this physical reality is really all about, we have the opportunity by resolving all of our limitations to create a new world. And that's what I see in the upcoming years for many of us, not all of us, because it's not possible that every human on this planet wakes up at the same time. I don't think that is what will happen, because there are still people that they don't have that awareness. I don't want to speak in levels, because it's not about levels. They just don't have the awareness yet, because maybe they have resistance, right? Because one thing that we have to see, and you can even see that in astrology, is that you can only open yourself up to a reconstruction of your reality in that big of a way if you feel some sort of security somewhere, right? And we had the North Node in Cancer for the past 18 months, I believe, for that very reason. So we can come home inside of ourselves, so we can establish home within ourselves, so we can come home to our soul as well, to our emotional body, and have safety inside, right? Because before that, we projected all of our security and safety onto societal governmental structures, right? And obviously, if these structures are gone and we eliminate them, it would be like we jump off a cliff, but there is nothing to save us, because we projected all of our security onto something outside of us. But now that more and more people came to the realization that these structures of society and of the government, they don't really create safety in my life. I want to establish and create safety on my own. I want to be self-sufficient in that sense, right? And interestingly enough, you know, self-sufficiency is the polarity point of Pluto's ruling sign, which is Scorpio, and the polarity point would be Taurus, and Uranus is in Taurus. So there's another a really, really interesting alignment too, because Scorpio again is the ruling sign of Pluto and the opposite sign. So the polar opposite sign of the Scorpio ruled sign is Taurus, which rules the physical body, but also self-sufficiency in our own needs. And that definitely had makeover over the last couple of months, and will have in the upcoming years. But again, going back to why a lot of people are in a position to have a spiritual awakening now, is because they are safer inside of themselves, right? And when we are safe inside of ourselves, we feel safer to explore all the other options that are out there in the universe. And to some degree, I believe that's why a lot of children actually suppress their abilities in childhood, right? Their extrasensory perceptions, their psychic abilities, their connection to angels and all of that, because they come into this physical world and they learn that all of that is not real. It's not a part of reality, right? Because the reality that we had before doesn't really address all of these other experiences that we can have that are part of reality, just maybe not part of this physical reality in the traditional sense. But again, that can be changed, right? It's just a belief system that we have. And because children are so dependent on their parents, and they survive through their parents or with their parents, and they have to stay with them, they suppress all of these abilities, many children, because they feel like it's not safe, right? It's not safe. And as a child, you don't have that safety inside of yourself. And the older you get and the more you are connected to your soul, you will establish that safety again. And again, over the last couple of months, a lot of people had the opportunity to come home to themselves and now are in a safer position, or through crisis where everything they projected their safety onto was erased from them, they had the opportunity through that crisis to find home within themselves, and then woke up to the fact that there's more to life than, you know, me projecting my security onto something else, because it will make me dependent on someone or something else my whole life, and I don't want that anymore, which is where our values come into play. So bringing it back to astrology, now that more and more people are safe inside of themselves, and we have that Saturn Pluto conjunction, beginning of 2020, Pluto also rules secrets, right, and brings all of the secrets of society, of the societal structure, of governmental structure, Saturn, to the surface, so we can see them and transform them, right? It's death, rebirth, destruction, all of that is Pluto, because all of these secrets are not in alignment with soul consciousness at large. And that's probably the most dominant layer that a lot of people talk about. But the underlying fact of that Saturn-Pluto conjunction is definitely that we have now the ability to see reality in a completely new way, to really rethink our concept of reality. Because what I believe, and myself woke up to the realization, is, well, we label everything that is real, or we limit everything that is real to this physical experience. So everything we can perceive physically in this physical world called Earth, right, we think is reality. When in reality, there are more realities around us all the time. And just we don't perceive it as a physical experience or sensation doesn't mean that everything else we perceive is not real, just because it's not physical. And that's where the new nodes, right, in Gemini and Sagittarius come into play, because the South Node in Sagittarius definitely invites us to rethink all of our belief systems, right? All of our agreements to specific beliefs that we then base all of our life on. Because through that North Node in Gemini, we can see life from different angles. We can open our minds. We can see life from different perspectives. And that's how you can see that astrology is really building up on a huge global awakening happening, right? It's obviously supported by Uranus and Taurus as well, by actually also by Pisces and by Neptune in Pisces. Why? Because Pisces, Neptune, Neptune is at home in Pisces, and it opens us up to that universal cosmic consciousness, right? Which is obviously also the connection to our soul. And we see that, we are more receptive in dreams, for example. We might get more visions. We might wake up to more spiritual awakenings because of that. But we also see that we have more capabilities, more abilities as physical humans too, right? We just limit some sensations like clairvoyance, clairaudience, all of the clairs we might have suppressed because we thought, well, it's not physical, so it can't be real. But that was just a belief system that now can also be reformed and transformed, right? Because just because something is not physical doesn't mean that it's less real than a physical experience. And that's something we have to see, because just think of a memory you had, right, in the past. It's such a good analogy that I think about over and over again. A memory, right? A memory you have and you can recall from your so-called past that definitely gives you an emotional reaction in your body, and to a certain degree sometimes these memories feel more real and look more real through your mind's eye than the physical experience you have now watching this video, right? And right now this is the physical experience that you have. This is the present moment, right? You watching this video. But really, when you look back and you think back and you recall specific memories in your life, even from childhood sometimes, they feel like they just happened 2 seconds ago, like they are your present moment. And how many people actually operate from these memories? So how come we think that these memories that are just like visions we have for the future that might have not happened yet, how come we think that these memories are more valid? Because we think we have experienced them as a physical sensation in the past, right? Why do we think they are more real or less real than something we project onto the future? We see through our mind's eye could happen in the future, or we want that to happen in the future. Why, right? Because it's actually the same thing, right? And the only thing that is physical is right now, this moment. So even the past would not be real, so to speak, because it's not right now in the moment, in this physical experience. So that's something I want you to think about, because you will also realize that specific things you see for the future that might have not happened yet feel just as real as the memories from the past. You can see it so clearly in your mind's eye, but it was not physical yet. So you label it as either a vision you have, a dream you have, visualization you have. But honestly, I think if this was not something that is actually already happening somewhere with you, you would not perceive it. You would not be able to see it. Because the minute you think of it, the minute you see it in your mind's eye, you created it, right? You created it. It's similar to social media, for example. Why? Because social media, you see things, right? Or like a movie, you know, social media or movie. Obviously, movies are created in a specific way, so I would rather refer to social media, because there are people and humans that actually live a physical life somewhere, but you just see that. So it's not physical for you, it's physical for them, but you can still look at it, right? You can still perceive it. And how come we think that is real, but not what we project and what we literally visualize in our mind's eye? So I know that's a long tangent about the topic of reframing how we see reality, but I see that coming more and more again, especially also because obviously a lot more people have that spiritual awakening sensation, and I think it's an exciting time to be alive. I haven't really decided on how I actually think we can all live together when more and more people, you know, have that spiritual awakening, see reality in a completely new way, don't buy into the bullshit that we see in the media or somewhere else, right? And then there's another part of society that still lives in that old paradigm. I think that's interesting to watch and to perceive in the future. But I just wanted to give you that perspective on the Saturn Pluto conjunction, also invite you to think about, you know, your dreams. I have an amazing podcast about dreams. Definitely recommend you to listen to that. It's a dream expert. He's an amazing astrologer and dream expert, Dr. Lennox Dreams. I will link it down below because it's an incredible episode. We talk about reality, what is reality, how real are dreams, the analogy of dreams, and I've been working with dreams a lot more, and I feel like more and more people are receptive to dreams too, because of Neptune and Pisces and all of that, and the spiritual awakening that is happening. And certainly the dream world has helped me understand physical reality so much more too. So I can definitely see that. And when more and more people work with that dream stage too, they realize that this physical reality is not that much different as your dream reality. We have just put everything into a certain box or put a label on something. You know, this is the dream world, this is the past, this is the future, this is my imagination, this is a dream I have, this is physical, this is now, whatever. You know, we have all of these categories instead of seeing that actually everything is one. And actually everything is your consciousness, you as a soul having fun creating different experiences for you. And you actually have the ability to make everything that you perceive in your mind's eye a physical experience too. We just limit ourselves, because what we do is when we receive these insights on, okay, this is a probability for you, this is a probability for you, this is an idea that I have, how I want to have my physical reality look like, we filter them through the so-called past experiences that we already were able to manifest, and thus limit what we can actually really manifest, because we can manifest anything, right? We can make anything physical that we see through our mind's eye. Otherwise, we would not perceive it as a vision, so to speak. And again, I think that the Saturn-Pluto conjunction will help us understand the physical reality in a completely new way, reality at large in a completely new way. The structures and limitations of reality will be expanded big time. And by that, obviously, that means that we will incorporate more of our psychic abilities, of all of our clairs, of all of the healing capabilities that we also have as humans. And it all goes back to, you know, the perfect alignment that we have in 2020 until 2022 with the South Node in Sag, reframing, reconsidering, restructuring also all of our belief systems, because everything in this universe is based on belief systems too. So I would be really, really curious to hear your thoughts on that topic. If you see the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that way, how 2020 so far changed your perception on the world and your understanding of the world, how astrology might support that. So definitely everything that you receive as an insight from this video, leave it down below in the comments so we can have a talk about that. I'm just really fascinated about the topic in general. You know, how this universe works has been a topic that is so close to my heart ever since I think I'm 10 or something. I don't know. I've always wondered, how does this work? When did it start? And I think it will be a question that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. And whenever I have a new insight, I will share it, right? Because that's another thing. There's no right or wrong about it. It's just my perception. You can agree to it or you can just consider it, right? It's just an idea. You don't have to buy into it. It's not my religion. It's not, it's just how I see reality, how I make sense of reality. And I think the more people that just openly share their opinion and perception about specific topics, not just this topic, the more open we are to receive different perceptions ourselves, right? Because it's all about breaking through these limitations. There are no limitations, and that's the greatest insight and learning that we all should have in 2020. We can definitely say that nothing is impossible, anything can happen, and you can make anything happen by just simply stepping in your magic.